Okay, so I'll give you a little introduction about the Grimmer GT 170 windrowing kit that we produce. As you've seen from the video and the footage, it solves a lot of problems, the windrowing full stop, and especially the one we produce that's 6 foot or 1.8 metres wider than what would be a standard cross conveyor. And as you can see as I was saying on the video, we can open the field right up, not by just taking 4 rows out. We can take 6 or 8 rows out in one go and open that field right up to be able to get the trailers in without running the crop down. And the efficiencies of windrowing ahead of a harvester are well known. A lot more performance to be gained out of the trailed harvester or the self-propelled. But I just want to walk you around the machine itself and what we've done, and just the finer points really. So it's all about damage and reducing damage and keeping it absolutely to a minimum. And one of the really important parts of that is the web itself. So we'll have a look at the web now, show you how we produce that part of it. So the web, or the conveyor belt itself, quite a bit of thought and design gone into that as well. It's built specifically for us, to our design. So we have what we call an active finger that runs inboard of the side belt itself, obviously just to keep the crop in, but it also means we've got no area on the machine where we have a static piece of side panel or steel with crop moving past it, so there's no chance of the crop rubbing against everything. So everything is being carried quite gently in a basket, if you like, in sections. The web itself, super triple ply, call it double knock side belting, will last forever, should do. We've got the active fingers that are riveted on, which we can be replaced individually. And then the web itself is quite a lightweight design really. We're well aware that this unit is right on the very tail of any machine, and that's not where we want to see a lot of weight. We want to keep the back end of the machine quite light and make sure all of the weight, or most of the weight, can go onto the drawbar of the tractor itself. So keeping the unit fairly lightweight is a way to do that. The unit itself, less than half a tonne in actual fact, so it's actually quite a lightweight unit. So the web itself, we only have a steel web bar on every 4th pitch. What that means is less steel in the web, less weight really. And then to fill the gap in between, we have a PVC sheet. It really is quite a stiff and quite a strong PVC belting that wraps itself over the top of each bar. So what it actually does is create quite a shallow pocket with a very shallow flight, if you imagine. So what that does, it stops any of the crop from rolling and gathering a bit of inertia and rolling off the end of the elevator itself, or the conveyor. So it's nice and sealed up. The fact that it is sealed up means we don't have to worry about soil getting inside and then having to get it back out again. So the common way to get the soil out would be to put a drop flap on there or something like that. But once you do that, then you are forced to run the conveyor in just that one direction. Because we don't run a drop flap, because we don't need one, we can run it left hand or we can run it right hand. So it gives us the option of discharging in both directions, which is important. While we're at this end of the conveyor, we'll talk about this little end section. Pretty obvious what it's doing. We have a little hydraulic cylinder on there and it pivots, and that just allows us to drop the end section of the conveyor down to more gently drop the crop into the valley to the side of the machine. So the closer we can run that, the better. It's part and parcel of why we run a relatively short active finger, because we want to get the whole delivery end as close to the ground as we possibly can to reduce that drop. We also have a piece of rubber on here that ties back just to baffle down the crop as it tips over. The flight pretty much does that for us anyway, but the rubber is just a little bit of second line of defence, just to hold the crop gently and just deliver it down into the valley bottom. So it's quite an important thing. The elevator, or the conveyor as such, is in 5 sections. So we've got the end section, we've got the large middle section that's hidden under the chassis, and then we have an extra pivot just here. So when we fold up for transport, everything pivots around that centre bolt and comes up vertically, and that brings us up to within an overall working width, or transport width I should say, of 3 metres. You'll be able to see that on the video in the field as it's working. Traverse, let's have a look how that works. I'll take you over here. Okay, so just talking about the traverse side, so that left and right fine adjustment that you're going to need when you're trying to deliver dead centre or into that valley. Because the conveyor is so long, we need a lot of movement, a lot of travel, and to get that, and the most reliably and best way is with hydraulic cylinders. Now, to do the whole distance on one cylinder would be absolutely enormous. So to sort of dodge the problem in a way, we've piggybacked a couple of double acting services. So we can power the top hydraulic ram out, which actually supports the bottom ram, and they're interconnected hydraulically. So if one reaches its limit, it then pulls the other ram with it as well. So we get twice the movement or twice the travel in just the length of one ram. So that really quite a nice system to see working. Again, you'll see that on the video of it working in the field. Works quite nice and neatly. As you can imagine, we've got a lot of hydraulics going on these conveyors, and routing pipe work, keeping things out of the way, allowing it to fold up, might be thought of as a bit of a nightmare, and quite honestly, it's took us a year or 2 or 3 in actual fact just to get all that lot fine-tuned down. And the key to the job is to support the web. The hydraulic hose is quite high up. So what we have here is, rather than keep all these rigid, we have a rotating arm to support the bulk of the hoses. It's greasable as well, and that just floats left and right quite easily. So really we're pretty trouble-free on hoses, and it's reliable and it's easy to repair as well. A couple of other little things we've got on here worth noting. Quite small but quite handy. We have a couple of access guards in here with the over centre clamps. If we just need to dive in there for any reason, we've got a big lump come through, we just want to get in there, we've got that ability to get in. A little bracket on here, might be wondering why that's there. It's designed specifically for the Grima GT. So the idea is, when we take that elevator off the host harvester, we're left with lighting and reflective plates, and they can just bolt straight back onto our unit. There's a place to run the cable. There's no inventing. There's no little engineering to do for the person that's installing it. It's all a plug and play. So those bits just bolt straight back on again. Right, I'll take you around to show you a little bit more about the hydraulics. Right, so we just mocked this up really in a way, just to kind of present it well, to show you what we're about. There's a lot of detail again on the website. It tells you exactly what operates what and where it all goes, so it's easy to read through that. But just in a bit of an overview, obviously we reuse as many services as there already are on the Grima GT to operate what was the elevator. So with removing the cart elevator, we're left with hydraulic services to lift the end section up and down that would have been on the elevator. We repurposed that hydraulic operation to lift the end of the conveyor up and down. So these, we call them the tip end, one on one end, one on the other. But because we only have one service to lift one end up and down, which was the elevator, we have to split that into 2. And the way we do that is we use this little quite a little compact diverter valve. So if you imagine this is plugging in to your valve that was lifting the, what I call the swan neck of your elevator, that now feeds this little diverter valve. We have A and a B port going out to either end of the conveyor, and to swap from one side to the other, this little control box here on a magnet, so it just snaps into the back of your cab there. We just flip the switch over, left or right. Very rarely are you going from one end to the other to adjust it, so it's quite easy just to decide whether you're going right hand or whether you're going left hand. So that's all part of the kit, and all the wiring's there for you. Even comes with its own power supply plug and a big length of cable, as you can see here, that runs all the way to the tractor cab. Okay, so that's our tip ends taken care of. Your next feature is driving the elevator in one direction or the other. Now, as you'd imagine, an elevator generally just goes in one direction. That's what it's meant to do. But more common these days, there's a lot of these harvesters being ordered with what we call a windrowing kit. And what a windrowing kit actually is the ability to run the elevator in reverse. So rather than elevate the crop into the trailer, we run it in reverse. It's a slightly extended elevator that then drops the crop down to the left-hand side or the near side of the harvester. If you've got that facility on, you've already got what we need. We just have to plug our 2 hoses in that drive the motors into that service, and off you go. That's not a problem. However, if it's a basic machine without that windrowing kit from the factory in Germany, we can add another valve. Works in very, very much the same way as this, and what it does, it allows us to reverse the hydraulic flow to the conveyor, so the conveyor can run to the left or it can run to the right. Again, similar sort of valve, but it's got more ports, but we have a toggle switch again, so we just flick that to the left or flick it to the right. So you keep your speed control, but we get this extra switch to give us the option to go left or right. So we just add that in should you need it for your specific machine. You just need to tell us if you've got the Grimmer windrowing kit. Okay, moving on, really the final bit of the hydraulics is folding the machine up for transport. Now, quite important and requires a bit of thought in the engineering of our conveyor to make that safe in the cab operation. So the way we've made that safe and workable is we put a safety switch in the system that detects when the conveyor is absolutely dead centre to the chassis. When it's dead centre, it illuminates one of these LED lights in the control box, so you know you're dead centre. At that point, you can then power up the 2 wings up vertically from the tractor. Now, the way we power up the 2 end sections is from the tractor spool. We're not looking to complicate the whole system. We don't want to add valves into the harvester, so we've kept it simple. We just run 2 long hoses from the folding rams that sit underneath the elevator conveyor straight to your tractor spool. So when the unit's fitted on, you'll have 2 pairs of pipes into 2 double acting services on the back of your tractor, and you'll lift those up via your spool valves. Now, when I talked about centralising the conveyor and the light coming on, the light is telling you that these 2 safety valves are activated. And what these 2 safety valves do is stop you from powering up the hydraulic cylinder to fold it up. As you'd imagine, if we had the conveyor slightly to one side and without the safety switch and we tried to fold up in the incorrect position, we can cause damage in the joint or the pivot as it gets stuck under the main chassis. So the idea of the safety valve is they're only energised when the safety switch knows that we're dead centre. You're going to know because the light comes on. Those valves are then energised and then it's free to hydraulically fold that up. So that's a good, simple, robust safety system that makes sure you don't ever cause any sort of damage and that everything is in the right place at the right time. We might always say, you know, doesn't hurt to get out the tractor, just have a quick look around, make sure everything is right, clean some muck off from the tops and whatnot. But that's a nice little safety system that we do. This little junction box, again, we've mounted it onto the framework here, but that's going to bolt literally just inside one of the guards on the right hand side of the machine. So really everything's pre-wired, all the hydraulic hoses here, everything's got the right threads to screw straight into your existing Grimmer hydraulics. It really is quite a simple plug and play system. As you can see a little bit closer on here is the mounting. So I'll take you around here and show you how it bolts onto the machine. Okay, so mounting to the host harvester. There's only one place to bolt it on, but we give you a series of options of bolting the unit itself onto the back of the harvester. And what that gives us is it allows us to mount the unit a little bit higher or a little bit lower. And the reason we do that is really based on very much about the wheel equipment on the harvester itself. You'll find on the GT harvesters they come with multiple versions of cleaning systems, and depending which cleaning system, whether it be the RS rollers or the Multicep, this way round, that way round, one of each, two of each, whatever it may be, depends exactly where your the wheel that runs underneath the machine can sit. So that can be further down, further up, depending what clearance you need, and that ultimately affects where we bolt the cross conveyor onto. But ultimately, there's not really any problem with mounting this high or low. The transfer webs that feed into the conveyor are adjustable anyway, they swing. But really what we want to do is leave you with an opportunity to put this in the best possible place to get the tip end of the conveyor where you want it, which is close enough to that top of that row. So those slots just give us that bit of opportunity to do that. And as you can see, it doesn't take many bolts to get this bolted on. The hydraulics will be fed through, the electrics are ready to go. We allow about a day for a couple of engineers to put one of these on, up and running, and off you go. And really they are as simple as that. So hopefully that gives you a good sort of overview of what's working and what you get for your money. Thanks ever so much for looking. Give us a ring if you need us. Thank you.